Here we go. Hello, Marlins fans. Welcome back to our Marlins report here live on the Five Reasons YouTube channel, as usual, with my friend David Fernandez. David, how are you? Welcome back. We are ready to talk more Marlins baseball. We have some drama going on, so why not? Let's get together
Yes,
and talk some
sir.
baseball. How are you? Welcome back.
I'm good, Alejandro. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back so we can jump on here and talk a little bit about what's going on with the Marlins. I mean, they put on a show last night and, they had the drama of the meeting and whatnot. I mean, maybe this turns some things around. Who knows? We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, before we get into the meeting and all players meeting, in case you guys didn't know, and what's going on with the Marlins, I feel like they score a lot of runs in like they have scored a lot of runs in like 5 or 6 games, which probably makes a good percentage of their total of runs in the season. I don't know if do you have the same perception. If they scored a little bit more selectively, they would have, I mean, 5 or 6 more wins this season for sure.
Yeah, I mean they got to spread it out some, right? And
Yes, yeah, yeah,
you know what? They score for Edward Cabrera like crazy. I mean
yes,
they put up. I mean he's like at 26 or 27 runs of support in his two starts, and then you look at guys like Sandy and Pablo. They haven't gotten anything,
yeah.
and it's going to be a little frustrating for some of those guys. But I mean, good for Cabrera. But I mean, it's crazy when they break out. They do seem to score runs in bunches, which I guess it helps even things out in the long run, but you would like to see a little bit more consistency.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
that's the word. I think consistency can be the key to really find more wins here and there. And I have to come back to that series in Colorado when they scored 20 some runs in 2 games and they lost one of them. So
Yeah,
that was frustrating right there because
yeah,
those should have been 2 wins in one day and they lost. They lost one of those games. So it's been that type of season for Miami this year. I don't know if you have the
absolutely.
same feeling. Like they sometimes the team looks like okay, these guys can compete in this division, especially the way the division is going on right now. And other than the Mets, everybody else is kind of struggling a little bit. So I don't know. I had to talk about this because I had to get it off my chest somehow. So I was
Do
talking to
it.
David before we went live here. I went to Philadelphia this weekend. I saw the Phillies. As soon as I landed, they had fired Joe Girardi, so he's not longer there. Then as soon as I got to Miami, Joe Madden was the next one out of his spot, and that brought me the question. And it's like, I don't know. The Marlins are 20. Well, right now they're 23-30, but yesterday when I was wondering about it, they were 22-30. They had this all players meeting, and things were not going quite like they thought they would. I think so. Let's dive a little bit about into this players meeting, players only meeting, 1 hour and a half. Talking about what, David? What are the reports about what went on yesterday at Lone Depot Park before the beginning of this series against the Nationals?
Yeah, well, before we get to that,
Hmm.
based on what you're saying here, you got to Philly and Joe Girardi got fired. And then you left Philly and Joe Madden, who was in Philly playing with the Angels, he got fired. You better
Yes.
stay away from Lone Depot or Don Mattingly might get fired too. I mean, we'll see. I mean, some people would like that, I think, at this point. Who knows? The meeting it's weird. I mean, pregame meeting, 90-minute meeting. Mattingly reportedly called the meeting, and it had to do, like they said, he was quoted as to build better chemistry, I guess. The players reportedly were complaining about other players, which is obviously
Right.
not something that you want to hear. I mean, the what we've heard is that some veterans don't like the way that some of the younger players are going about their business. The Miami
Hmm.
Herald reported today that one source called the team meeting totally chaotic, and that it accomplished very little. Another source, according to the Miami Herald, called it very productive. So you kind of hear it both ways. Herald, they spoke to Miguel Rojas apparently, and that he said
Hmm.
that he has no personal issues with anybody on the team, but that team rules need to be followed. So I
Right.
guess no team rules are being, or certain rules aren't being followed by everybody. Andy Slater went on and he reported today that some of the meeting topics included work ethic, effort on and off the field, and then how some of the guys are dressed going to the ballpark, which seems a little silly. And then Ethan Badowski reported today he apparently spoke to Garrett Cooper, and Cooper apparently didn't really see a need for this. Apparently, Cooper said it wasn't really needed and that a lot of it was just nonsense. So, you know, who knows why they did it then? Who knows why, it had to be called in the first place? Apparently, most of the players spoke at some point during the meeting. Kim Eng was reportedly in the meeting as well. You know, what it comes
She
down
was
to, I
there,
mean,
so
from
it was so it was not only players then.
yeah, the coaching staff reportedly was there. She was there. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
for
they
me,
couldn't
from
talk,
everything that
just
I'm
looking at
reading,
it.
yeah, everything that I'm reading and hearing right now, there seems to be a disconnect between the with the leadership of the team. This
Right.
looks worse on, I would say, Don Mattingly, because if you have a set of rules in place for the team, there has to be a certain level of accountability. If somebody isn't following those team rules, whatever the rules may be, there's again a disconnect there with some of the leadership. You know, if some people have said like maturity issues and stuff like that, and then everybody sort of immediately assumes Jazz, right? But Jazz looks
Right.
like one of the hardest working players on the team,
And he's
and
been the most productive in the lineup, so
absolutely, so you wonder about sort of what's going on with the club. Some guys don't seem to think that there's an issue at all, and then other guys seem to have a very big issue. You wonder if maybe some of this stuff, which we haven't seen, like the team has seemed very sort of connected over the last couple seasons. I mean, I know there was an issue last year with Starling Marte and Monte Harrison for a minute, but beyond that, the team seemed relatively connected. So then is it one of the new guys that they brought in or a couple of the new guys that they brought in causing some of these issues? I mean, obviously we don't know. We weren't in the meeting. We're probably never going to know the details. Mattingly, he shied away from sharing details. The players that have spoken haven't shared, specific details from the meeting either. You know, but you look at the result. I mean, pregame, Mattingly was talking about how he thought the team might come out flat, and I thought that was a terrible look for him. What he was
yeah.
saying, and why even say that? But obviously, the team didn't come out flat, and they put a beat down on the Nationals. But then you think about it, and it's the Nationals, and they're one of the worst teams in baseball, and the starter yesterday is one of the worst starters in baseball. So what they did yesterday, they were kind of supposed to do, right? At least
Right.
you would assume. The real test, I guess, comes with once they're done with the Nationals, they go on a pretty significant road trip. They're going to Houston, Philadelphia, and then they're
Hmm.
going to finally play the New York Mets. So, I guess a week from now, we're going to know a lot more about this team and if this meeting had any effect on the production going forward.
Well, looking at it, it seems like it worked, right? But like you said, it was against the Nationals, and the Marlins have been playing actually good baseball against the National
Yeah, I think
East, National League
they're
East. So
six. Yeah, they're 6-7 against the Nationals this year, and I guess you could do the math from there. They're terrible against everybody else.
right. So the reality is there are 7 games under 500 right now. There are 12 and a half games behind the Mets, and it's only been what 53 games. So they still have more than 100 games to be played. So this is still a long ways to go. The Phillies they seem like it seemed like something worked there. The Braves are also picking it up. They're both in good winning streak right now. So I don't know. This meeting is kind of odd, but I guess the moment to do it was before this series because they knew this was the team to. I mean, like those the rival. They could really go on a really a quick winning streak before they go into that particular schedule matchup that you were talking about. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense that they did it this time, especially having Cabrera and Alcantara back to back facing this team. They knew they had a good shot at really winning this series. But the other stuff that you're reporting right now, there you're talking about the different reports there, like the way people are dressed, or I mean, I guess yes, teams have rules, but a players only meeting to really deal with it, right? Like, I mean, the
Yeah,
organization can find players, they can just not play them, get them out of the lineup or whatever. And we saw something happen between Ronald Acuna and Freddie Freeman talking a little bit about this codes and whatever the organizations put as a rule, but I don't know. It seems odd to me. Like I feel like they're just losing and they're just not handling it well. That's how it looks from the outside, right? We don't know what's actually going on in there.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you look at they started 12-8 this season. Since then, they're 11-22. So they've lost quite literally twice as many times as they've won since that hot start. So you start to look at some of those other things. You start to wonder, why are some of these things happening? And some of the stuff. I mean, especially some of the silliness with like dress code and whatnot. I mean,
Hmm.
if they have a dress code, they need to enforce the dress code, right? I
Right.
mean, if,
That's
if
it.
it's one of the team rules. But so if they're picking and choosing when they enforce rules and when they don't, again, that kind of it looks bad on the leadership of the team. But beyond that, like the stuff on the field, the way that they play, I mean, you look at a guy like Jazz Chisholm and you want him to be himself. I mean, he had a post-game interview with MLB Network yesterday, which was incredible. And he was talking about how his best tool is his personality. And I mean, he's the kind of guy that fans are going to latch on to and they're
Right.
going to want to go see. And
If you
that's
ask
what you
me, he's the only exciting player in the Marlins roster right now.
absolutely. And I mean,
I mean,
the other
especially
best.
maybe the pitchers, but like a position player.
Right. I was going to say the other best players on the team are guys like Sandy and Pablo, who you only get to see once every 5 days. Right.
And they're and
So,
they're they're really quiet. They're not so out there like Chisholm is. So
yeah.
it's
And if
it's
you
a
look
it's
at,
a it's a different balance.
yeah, if you look at the history of the club, there have been very few players that have really spiked attendance, right? Dontrell Willis did it. Jose Fernandez obviously did it, but those guys are pitchers. And again, they're only pitching once every 5 days or so.
Yeah.
If you can get a guy like Jazz and you can let him be himself and let him produce, I mean, according to ESPN stats and info, I was floored by this yesterday when they said it. Jazz Chisholm's grand slam yesterday that came on a 3-0 count.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's the first time in franchise history that a player for the Marlins has hit a grand slam on a 3-0 count. This team has been around for nearly 30 years. It's crazy to me that it's never happened before. And then
Right.
he went ahead and he hit another one in the game. And in that interview with MLB Network afterwards, they had asked him, were you thinking about hitting homer number 3 in your next at bat? And Jazz was like, yeah. And anybody who says no would be lying, so
Right.
that's the kind of thing you want to see players like that. You want to see these guys help grow the game, because the reality is those are the people that really draw fans. I mean, Ronald Acuna is a very polarizing player.
Yeah.
Marlins fans have their issues with him and his antics, but Jazz is kind of cut from the same cloth. And Ronald Acuna is doing amazing things right now too. I think, what was it, 3 homers in a row and like 3 straight plate appearances. He's an incredible player. You got to let those guys be themselves if you really want to grow this team. Jazz absolutely needs to be the face of the franchise. And if there are veterans on this team who are sort of going against that stuff, I mean, I feel like, to me personally, that's too old school of a mentality, right? Let him have his fun. If you don't want him to Euro step when he's hitting a homer, don't let him hit a homer.
Right. That's the best solution. So yeah, going with that comment right now. I went to the ballpark, like I was telling you, on Saturday night, and I saw a lot of kids there, but most of them were really distracted on their phones. They weren't really paying attention to the game, and I think it has to be a little bit had to do a lot with what you're talking about. There's it's hard in a 3 hour span to have a lot of exciting stuff going on. This is not basketball. This is not football. So you don't always have action in a game. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I like traditional baseball, but I know that we need something else to really spark that those emotions in the fans. I mean, that's the reality of the game, and that's what we need right now. But going back into the Marlins reality, do you think this meeting and this situation can change anything of what's going on? I mean, the Marlins, first, I don't know if they haven't found. I mean, it seems like they haven't found a lineup that they're always switching back and forth. You see, Jazz is a ninth hitter, then today he's hitting leadoff, then he's hitting fifth. I mean, there's just putting people around. I don't know if this. I mean, and it doesn't have to do with the injuries because they were doing it when everybody was healthy anyway. So I don't know if that's the issue there. They took a long time to really get rid of Elias Hernandez or send him to AAA when we all saw that he was struggling a lot, and we had a couple of good arms in the farm system. So I don't know. I don't know if the players are also, I mean, maybe growing a little tired of management, and it's not just Don Mattingly, because I know all these changes in the lineups. We all know that most it goes beyond managers now. It's not
Yeah.
their final decision now. I mean, sometimes they do make some of these decisions, but most of them are coming from the front offices anyway. So I don't know. You feel this can change somehow from now on?
I mean, I hope so, right? I mean, the team believe like the front office believes in this group. I don't know if I mean we're getting to the point where they're going to have to make some changes one way or the other,
Hmm.
especially if they don't continue or at least start winning consistently. But for me, it's almost like they've been crippled by some of the analytics, right? They're looking at some of these advanced numbers, and we saw this early in the year. I mean, Jazz needs to be in the lineup every single day,
Yeah, they
you know,
benched him like 3 or 4 times.
right?
Makes no sense.
Right. The analytics, like the advanced statistics, they say one thing, but the
Hmm.
reality is he's their best player and he needs to be on the field, and he's got to work through whatever difficulties he might have versus a left-handed hitter or a left-handed pitcher, I'm sorry. But
Yeah,
so you wonder if some of that stuff is kind of playing into it, right? Have they got to the point where they're looking at these advanced statistics, where they're looking at these tendencies and these trends, and they are overthinking things because you know what is it, paralysis by analysis, so like they they need to. I mean, again, I'm going back to this interview, but Jazz said it in that MLB network post game. He just wants to go out there and have fun. Like, let these guys go out there and play. They have a lot of talent, and they've got guys that can produce. And I mean, they've got two of the best starters in baseball. And if their record was better, if they were above 500, we'd be talking about how this club should have three all-stars between Sandy, Pablo, and Jazz. But
right.
if they continue to struggle with wins and losses, probably one of those guys gets in. Maybe Jazz gets in on a fan vote, if it comes down to it. But
Hmm.
you know they have to be able to win consistently, and it might take a dramatic change from a leadership perspective, right? But I don't know that they're going to pull that trigger. I don't know that they're going to part ways with Don Mattingly and install somebody else as an interim manager for the rest of the year. I mean, we this might be the club for the season, right? And then maybe they sort of revisit things with Mattingly, who I think his contract is up at the end of this year. So, maybe they go in a different direction in the off season. But, do they have the talent to turn it around? I do. They have some very clear issues, though. There's obviously an issue in the back end of the bullpen. So if they want to make a change, maybe they go out and trade for a closer. I mean, I know that they had
Hmm.
representatives at Trevor Rosenthal's workout. It was either yesterday or the day before. He's a guy with closing experience. He didn't pitch last year because he was hurt, but maybe they go out and they try to sign him. But other contending teams, the Mets, the Blue Jays, they have needs in the bullpen too. So are the Marlins going to outbid for somebody like Trevor Rosenthal as a free agent, or are they going to try and make a trade for the back end of the bullpen? Who knows? I mean, these one-run losses, some of it's on the bullpen, but then some of it's on the offense too. It's tough to sort of pinpoint the one specific weakness. There's a couple, but I do think that they could turn it around, but they have to start doing that stuff now. I mean, there's a little bit more wiggle room with the expanded playoffs and having more wild card spots. But again, they've lost twice as many games as they've won in over the last 30 some odd contests. So if they're going to start winning, they've got to do it now. They've got to win tonight. They should probably try and sweep the Nationals, and then this road trip, Houston, Philly, and the Mets. They have to win some of those series, because if not, the season is going to be a lost one, and they're going to have to start thinking about how do they fix their 40-man roster, because the 40-man roster is a mess.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling from outside of the organization, I don't have any insight there, so this is just my opinion, is that they put Mattingly there, but they're telling him some stuff he should do, and that's why they're, I mean, they have to back him up, because at the end of the day, it's them who are making those
Yeah.
decisions. So it's hard to really get rid of one of those managers, but we saw what happened with two guys that have won rings recently, like Joe Girardi and Joe Maddon with the Phillies and the Angels. So I mean, if the Marlins are going down in this next 3-4 series, I mean, that could be the moment when this all changes dramatically for Mattingly. We'll see what happens. But let's talk about good things, positive things to finish our episode tonight. We see Sandy Alcantara on the mound again. You were talking about possible Marlins going into All-Star game today. I got the email. They're already starting for the All-Star voting stuff, so you can
Yep.
actually start voting right now today if you want for Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez, and Jazz Chisholm. I agree with you. Those three guys should be at least considered to go to the All-Star game. They've been great in the beginning of the season. So Sandy Alcantara has 4 wins, no losses, a 0.69 ERA over his last 5 starts. That's unbelievable. And he's pitched at least 7 innings in all of those 5 starts. And he has allowed no more than one earned run in all of those games. He's just on a roll right now. And like you said, he hasn't had a lot of run support, but he's still 6-2 right now with a 1.81 ERA at this point. He's one of the candidates for the NL Cy Young. You have to say it. I mean, we're already in June, so why not? I mean, he's a serious candidate.
Oh, absolutely. He's reached another level at this point. He continues to get better. He seemingly gets stronger with every outing, with every appearance. He's absolutely the ace of this staff, even though Pablo Lopez is right behind him
Mm-hmm.
doing amazing things as well. You
That could be
know,
the. I mean, that's definitely one of the best 1-2 punches in baseball.
yeah, this year absolutely. It's too bad they haven't been able to punch anything after that, right? I mean, Edward Cabrera is looking really good in his first two
Well,
starts.
right
You
now,
know,
since Edward Cabrera is in the fifth spot, it's like a 1-2-3 punch if they can
yeah,
actually get going. But we'll see.
yeah. I mean, but it's a pleasure to watch that guy work, and you see him that he wants to go out there. He wants to go out there for the seventh inning. He wants to go out there for the eighth inning. He probably would want to finish games. If his pitch count doesn't get up too high. But even then, like, he's gone over 100 pitches. In most of his last 2 or 3 outings, I think he might have been over 100 pitches for each of them. You
Hmm.
know, he's really sort of working towards being the unquestioned ace of this staff, and he's really pushing towards that Cy Young, like you said, because you can't ignore what he's doing, and baseball sees him as one of the top starters out there. So if he continues to pitch like this, and the Marlins can provide him with that run support, and he can continue to get wins and keep that ERA down, and rack up the strikeouts and the innings pitched and whatnot, he's absolutely going to be in the running for Cy Young, because I mean, there's no denying what he's doing.
Right. And right there, I mean, Pablo is with the 2.18 ERA right now, and that's because he got hit a little bit in
Yeah.
some of the last couple of starts. So I mean, it's been really impressive. I mean, look at this information from the Marlins report today. Sandy Alcantara has the lowest ERA in club history through the first 11 starts of the season. His 1.81 is good for second in the National League. Let me see who is the first one. Trevor Rogers. So I don't know what they're not saying. Well, I don't know, but those are the numbers there. So you can tell. I mean, he's been impressive, and like you said, if he gets a little bit of run support, he's gonna be winning more games, and that doesn't matter a lot for the Cy Young award anymore. But for the Marlins, I mean, they need to score runs tonight, and they need to win this game. But it's interesting. We're in an interesting point of the season because I mean we've talked about the relief pitching. That I mean we've missed some. We've lost some games there. I mean we've had lack of offense in some games. We have games with the starting pitchers, Trevor Rogers, Eliezer Hernandez were not doing their job. So it's been a little bit of a chaotic start of the season. And who was it that came out from the front office talking about the offensive numbers from the Marlins? I think, I mean, they
Oh,
had a
it was
point, but
Green. It was Greenlee, the assistant general manager.
right. So, I mean, he had a point, but the reality is you have to score runs to
Yeah,
win games. It doesn't matter if you score 50 runs one day and then you say, "Hey, I'm scoring runs," but I mean, you need to win games anyway. So, we
yeah,
are at that point in the season, and we'll see if the Marlins can pick it up and they can get into this race. I mean, it's getting interesting with the Braves and the Phillies picking it up, and the Mets who are having a great start of the season. But we know what the Mets do. The Mets are gonna Met, so you wait for it and see if they do it this time. Their team is, I mean, it looks amazing. I was looking at I was watching the series against the Padres, and I mean that looked like a playoff series right there between
yeah.
those two teams. But we'll see. Hopefully not. Hopefully the Marlins can get there, make the most out of this next couple of series, and of course we're gonna be here. On the Five Reasons YouTube channel, following everything that's going on. The game starts at 6:40, so you have about 45 minutes to get going and get some food, get whatever you're gonna drink tonight, even though it's a Wednesday night, and get ready to watch Sandy Alcantara work tonight. And hopefully this will be a Marlins win today. So thank you, David. Again, thank you to all of you that were here live. We're gonna, of course, leave this here on the YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe, to leave your comments here if you have any suggestions about future topics, any comments about whatever we said. And remember to turn the notifications on so you get a little notification in your cell phone every time we go live or we post any of these videos. David, anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I mean they've got to get it going. They got to win tonight. They probably got to win tomorrow if they're going to make things interesting. If not, we're going to start talking about trade options and
Blow
you
the
know
team out.
yeah, which prospect gets called up next, stuff like that. So we'll see. I mean, one way or the other, it's going to be interesting because they have some good prospects in the pipeline. They could make some trades. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? Hopefully they're buyers, right? Hopefully they're winning and they're trying to improve the big club, but we'll see.
We'll see what happens. And we'll be here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Thank you guys and see you next time. Bye bye.